Imagine you're a football manager in the 3rd division of Poland. This is your first job at this level, as previously you were only a semi-professional managing a club while teaching history and PE at school. But hey, you joined a very interesting project, as the club was recently taken over by a local rich IT entrepreneur. With the financial backing, all you have to do is to build the squad and win games, which turns out you do. In 2019, you win the promotion to the top flight. In 2021, you become runners-up and win the cup, and do the exact same a year later. And in 2023, you finally reach the top and claim the club's first ever league title. You then resign and look for a new club, most likely from abroad, with the likes of Ferencvaros, Olympiacos, the Polish national team, or even Brighton being your new potential destination. The last one was a completely made-up rumor though. But turns out, you did all that just to return to your former team a year later. It's going quite well, you narrowly miss out on the title, and then qualify for the league stage of the Conference League. You also get plenty of transfer budget to play with, as your club proceeds to spend 11 million euros this window, the biggest in league's history. In the league, you may have had a slow start, but you turn it around and are involved in a fight for Europe again. And you do all that just to force a move to your biggest rival. This is the situation we're in, ladies and gentlemen. Specifically, the club I'm talking about is Raków Częstochowa, a team whose owner and the local rich IT entrepreneur is Michał Świerczewski, and the manager I'm talking about is Marek Papszun, who worked his way up to become Rakov's legend, and now is potentially destroying the legacy for a job in Rakov's biggest rival that may as well not happen. The rival? Legia Warsaw. Now let's talk about them and their season for a good while. Legia's 24-25 season was full of ups and downs. On the one hand, they went to the Conference League quarterfinal, winning over the likes of Real Betis, Molde, or even getting a win over Chelsea at Stamford Bridge. The club also won the Polish Cup, which guaranteed the Europa League qualifiers. But on the other hand, Legia only finished 5th, had a number of misses on the transfer market, especially with the likes of Alfarella or Sergio Barcia, and parted ways with both the coach Gonzalo Fejo and the director of football Jacek Zieliński. However, this season was meant to be different. Edward Iordănescu, a former manager of the Romanian national team, became the coach before the season, and the man next to him in this picture is Michał Żewłakow, who became the director of football. Żewłakow had to make moves on the transfer market. After one, the fans started boycotting games because of the transfer activity or lack thereof. The boycott only lasted one game, by the way. And two, he did have some money to play with after the sales of two talented Poles, Maxi Ojedele and Jan Ziółkowski, as well as Ryoja Morishita. And so, he made arguably the loudest transfer window in Poland. Just to name a few signings: Mileta Rajovic, a striker from Watford for a record 3 million fee, loaned in wingers, Ermal Krasniki on the right from Sparta Prague and Noah Weishaupt on the left from Freiburg, Petar Stojanovic, a Slovenian international right back for free, and 4 Polish national team players: Arkadiusz Reca, Damian Szymański, Kamil Piątkowski and Kacper Urbański. I mean, seriously, if you just look at this squad, you would think this team would be at least fighting for the title. But no, as of recording this on November 27th, Legia is 2 points in front of the relegation zone. Just 2 miserable points. You can clearly tell, the situation in Warsaw is very far from ideal. Edward Iordănescu wasn't really happy to work with Legia, as almost all the time, we in Poland heard rumors that the coach was unhappy with the transfer money, wanted to block Urbański's transfer, and there even were talks of Edward returning to the Romanian national team. Iordănescu also pulled out a move, which later was called the Iordănescu Gambit. In short, on Thursday, for the first Conference League stage match against Samsunspor from Turkey, he fielded an entire second 11, so that the best players could rest for the Sunday league match against Górnik Zabrze. I can understand it to an extent, because Górnik was and still is in the title fight, but here's why this was called the Gambit. Legia lost both games. Edward also had a tendency to claim that his team was in fact in control of the match regardless of the result, mainly relying his claim on his team's possession stats. The players also did not really deliver. For best of examples, Kamil Piątkowski's debut against Zagłębie Lubin ended early after this obvious handball. And I also forgot to mention the own goal he scored beforehand. Kacper Urbański couldn't really shine as well, as he was constantly thrown into a wing when he clearly operates better as an attacking midfielder or a mezzala. And I've seen him play in the Poland under-21s in his natural position. He was a joy to watch. After weeks of the pointless mess, during which Iordănescu resigned once, only for it to be rejected, Edward was finally sacked on October 31st. And now, finally, we're in the current state of play. Legia had to appoint a temporary coach, and the man who took the role was Iñaki Astis, a former centre-back for the club. The results under him did not improve, so a permanent manager is needed, which leads to yet another endless saga. Plenty of names entered the conversation, such as Nenad Bielica, who recently managed Dinamo Zagreb, or João Enriquez, just released from Radomiak. And this is where we come to the entire point behind making this video. Legia Warsaw turned their attention to Marek Papszun. I mean, it should be fairly simple. Both sides want to work with one another, so just pay the compensation fee, sign the contract, and you've got yourself a gaffer. But this is the Polish league. Nothing makes sense here. Legia Warsaw is looking for a way to sign Marek without a huge fee, or preferably no fee whatsoever. Every single day, I stumble upon a bunch of posts and news on X saying, "Done deal, Papszun takes charge of Legia Warsaw. His first match will be whoever Legia will play next," only for nothing to happen. There are endless talks between the two clubs, and very little is coming out of them. So, we're in a bit of a stalemate. Now yes, it's rumored that upon returning to Rakov, Marek was told by the owner that there would be no problems made if an offer came, provided it comes from abroad or a national team, and that fee is a crucial factor in the negotiations. It looks like Świerczewski is blocking the transfer, but seriously, you wouldn't like to see your club essentially giving away your manager, especially someone who dragged you from the third tier to the first and won the championship. But what's even more insane is that a day before a Conference League match against Rapid Vienna, Marek Papszun went to the press conference and in the very first words, he stated that Legia wants him, and he wants to go to Legia, which did all the following. It angered the fans of Rakov, it puts Papszun's legacy in great danger, Lech Poznań fans are all laughing at the entire situation, Legia fans are being left speechless, and Michał Świerczewski dropped one of the biggest bangers the Polish football Twitter has seen. This situation got so crazy that Rakov went out to ask Polonia Bytom from the second division about their manager, a 37-year-old Łukasz Tomczyk, who had never managed on this level before. The compensation fee Polonia would receive is 150,000 zloty, equal to about 35,000 euros. So at least we can say Rakov is prepared for their manager's departure. And I randomly decided that, you know what? Since Raków Częstochowa plays their European matches in Sosnowiec, because their stadium does not meet the UEFA requirements, speaking of which this is a topic for a separate video, I decided to go to watch them play Rapid Vienna. So it's time for a short report from it. The single word I can describe this game with is cold. Freezing cold. I was literally freezing on the stands. At least we had some free tea. And on the pitch, Rakov absolutely delivered. Rapid Vienna had 0 points in the league phase so far, and it stayed that way after a 4-1 defeat. Rakov players were quicker to most balls, had more possession and were really solid in defense. The main star of the show was Lamin Diaby Fadiga, who scored the hat-trick. And what about the Marek Papszun situation? The Ultras did put up a transparent addressed to him, and you could clearly tell they were unhappy with the recent events. Now, let's talk about if Marek Papszun has a chance of succeeding with Legia at all, as long as he is the one hired. Marek relies on a few foundations when managing a club. On the pitch, some of those include a three at the back formation, a solid defense being a priority, a tall striker whose main task is to play with back to goal, and relying on physically gifted players. And off the pitch, Marek is ruthless when it comes to squad selection and prefers to control the transfer activity. When it comes to the tactic alone, I could see it work. Sure, it may not really be aligned with Legia's vision to control and dominate play, but it could 100% deliver results, as it did in Rakov. Although, it could also squash the creative best from the likes of Urbański or Jurgen Elitim. But when we step onto the transfer market, this is where huge problems could occur. Legia's transfer policy is mainly decided by the director of football, and both Michał Żywakov and Papszun would have to make compromises if they want to successfully manage the next few windows. So I can see why Papszun would succeed in Warsaw, but also I can see why he would fail. Now what's even more crazy is that this is not happening for the first time. Back in 2021, Legia Warsaw was even in a bigger crisis. Not just a crisis like today, they were literally in the relegation zone halfway through the season. This disaster led to their manager at the time, Czesław Michniewicz, being sacked. And Legia's main priority was to sign, you guessed it, Marek Papszun. The saga was going on and on and on. But at that time, Marek had no real reason to leave Rakov. At the end of the day, Legia returned to their previous manager, Aleksandra Vukovic, who helped stabilize the team a bit and let them finish mid-table, before leaving at the end of the season. So with all that covered, what do you think is the near future for Marek Papszun? Is he going to get hired? Is he going to get fired? Or as usual, nothing is going to happen? Let me know in the comments down below. I've read that Marek will eventually leave for Legia, but only during the winter. And I think this is the most likely scenario, but only if both clubs will finally agree on the fee. I hope you enjoyed this video. If that's the case, hit the like button and subscribe, I'll be very grateful for that. If you ask me who do I predict to win the Polish League this season, I would say it's Górnik Zabrze. And I made a video explaining why, which is on your screen right now.